Thank you, Madam Speaker. So I'm quite happy to rise to speak on the Northern Territory Container Deposit Scheme. And this is another measure for environmental conservatism that I think will greatly benefit across the Northern Territory. And it adds to the growing list of historic CLP achievements in this space. We actually can be quite proud as a CLP government of our environmental parks that we have created. And throughout the history, we can speak to Lemon Park, Lemon Bright Marine Park. We also have Jukbinge, Charles Darwin National Park. And that one, Madam Speaker, we should be particularly proud of, as that we were the first jurisdiction in the country to create a park in its metropolitan capital. And I think that's a great achievement, and that actually set a standard for other states to follow, in that your high-density urban environments can still have protected parks. And so we should be very proud of that. And recently we've seen our government bring on Silkwood as well, which I think is a fantastic blend between both protecting the environment and also being open for families to go and enjoy. And that piece is very important, because someone like myself will use Silkwood, and that will ingrain in my children a love of nature, an enjoyment of nature, and those experiences go on to help ensure they will also be environmentally conservative throughout their life. And so I guess what I'm speaking to, Madam Speaker, is that the protection of the environment is not owned by any political movement. It is something we can all aspire to protect, and we can ensure that our environment is not only healthy, but it is there for future generations to enjoy. I grew up in absolute awe of Sir David Attenborough, and I've feasted on his documentaries since I was a little boy. And I still love any program he puts out. I enjoy going back and watching previous programs as well. And his body of work throughout his lifetime, which is just incredible, I believe it was 1951, his body of work begins, I guess, in media, where he brought the whole world into the homes early on, I guess, of the English-speaking world, and now today to the whole world, which shows his impact. But he brought nature into our homes, and I think you would struggle to argue if there's ever been a single individual that has had a bigger impact on creating the desire to conserve our environment, especially through the 20th century, and he's continued well into the 21st century. The fact that Sir Attenborough has 12 post-nominals, I think, speaks to what he's achieved. And we have the Order of Merit, Order of St. Michael and St. George, Order of the Champions of Honour, Royal Victorian Order, Order of the British Empire, and no fewer than 7 fellowships. I think that's quite an impressive record, and it speaks to how much society values seeing nature, enjoying it in our homes, and the impact that it's had. But he wasn't the only impact on me. Another strong impact on my youth was Captain Planet, Madam Speaker. And growing up in the 90s, Captain Planet was a fantastic cartoon, which, when I think of it, when I reflect now as a man, I do think had a strong impact on how I now view the environment and the need to protect it. There was a heavy focus in that show on rubbish and litter, and I know that's definitely shaped me today. But I want to mention another man in particular in my Army career, and that is Warrant Officer Ewan Jack, who at the time was Sergeant Jack, and he was my first sergeant when I was a brand new young lieutenant. And I wrote a commendation for then Sergeant Jack on leadership, because he would, no matter where we were, and I mean no matter where we were, if we were doing PT on base, if we'd been on exercise and we were going to the movies as a troop, Sergeant Jack would pick up rubbish whenever he saw it. It didn't matter what time of day, what we were doing, he would always pick up any rubbish he saw. And I thought, as a young man in my early 20s, I thought that was just quite incredible, because it wasn't just the rubbish. He was setting a standard for the young soldiers, for myself as a young officer as well, on the standard we walk past is the standard we accept. And I just thought that was such an incredible part of him that I thought he deserved commendation for. And so when it came to my own electorate, those things inspired me myself. It's not news to anyone that rubbish throughout my electorate of Drysdale is quite bad, quite frankly. And when I came into this position, it was something I really wanted to tackle, because as a resident and as a local in that community, I don't want to see the huge build-up of rubbish that we are now dealing with. And it's not just unsightly. We have a huge range of native birds, which I really enjoy. We have a huge range of other native species, which already are under enough pressure with things like the cane toad, and just the urban sprawl itself. And so if we have something we can manage better, particularly rubbish, that's going to ease pressure on those native species, then I am all for it. We should be doing everything we can so that we protect, particularly in Palmerston, the few wild areas we have left. It's also why I do advocate for urban greenery. I think it's very important so we can maintain those levels of our native species so we can all enjoy them. So how are we going to tackle this rubbish? So I started off just picking up rubbish, huge amounts of rubbish. And there's photos where I have full ute loads of rubbish picked up in my electorate. Now, will Clinton Howe change the rubbish situation by himself? No. But I take that page from my first good sergeant, that if you can make a little impact and push others to do the same, you're just one more drop in that river, and that river can make the change. And so I particularly like this bill because it creates an incentive. It generally creates an incentive to go out. We have huge amounts of particularly alcohol bottles, and I think it's fantastic that we will now capture particularly wine bottles. We get a lot of, Yellow is a popular brand out in Palmerston, and there's a lot of yellow bottles. And so, creating now a financial incentive, I do know that's going to help, because we already have quite a few residents who go around and pick up all the cans, and a massive shout out to them, because it's a Herculean effort what some of them actually do. And I've gone and visited some of our residents who do pick up cans, and they've got like an entire operation going. Like, it is quite incredible. Yeah, and they're just fantastic community-minded individuals. Yes, there's a little bit of money in there, but I know all of them they're not doing it for the 10 cents a can. They're doing it because it's good, meaningful work, It can create a little bit of extra money, which is great, or it can be donated as well. And so creating incentive in this space, I really like. And I think the Minister has done a fantastic job in bringing this on. We've seen a huge range of reforms coming from the Minister, and this one I particularly thank him for, because I just genuinely believe it's going to help. It'll help with the problem of litter in our community. Excuse me. Madam Speaker, I'd like to thank the committee members who partook in this. I was particularly keen to learn throughout this, and through our time in the committee, I think it was interesting to see kind of where we can land. My particular interest was how we can economically make greater incentive, and we heard about particularly aluminium prices at the moment. Aluminium prices are quite well, and I was very keen on the question of, will 20 cents make a greater incentive? I do think it's something the government, be it our government or a future government, whenever it's worth reviewing, actually having a look at, is the 20 cents worth putting on? And I will put forward to the Minister that I think at some point in the future that should genuinely be looked at. If we haven't seen the price increase for quite some time, and if aluminium prices are doing very well, then I think it's definitely something worth the government looking at sometime into the future. So essentially, I'm very happy with the bill. I'm really hoping we can see some improvements to the rubbish situation throughout Drysdale. We have beautiful native birds, a lot of small animals, and I'm really hoping this makes an impact. And I'm hoping it creates a cleaner, nicer environment where people can feel proud of being in Drysdale, because I want everyone to be proud to live in Drysdale. It's an amazing community, and I commend this bill. I commend the Minister for his work in bringing this on. I thank Sir Attenborough, Captain Planet, and Sergeant Jack for shaping me to eventually see the great worthiness of this bill. I commend this bill to the House. Thank you.